Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Dancers Doing Stuff. I am Haley, as you know, and I hope you all are safe and sound mentally. I know this is a very weird time. By the time this goes live on the podcast, we will know who the next president is. Hopefully, I hope, because this will go live probably in a few weeks, so I hope we know by then. As you can see, I'm not shy about who I support, so if you like Trump, this might not be the show for you, and that's okay. We all have different choices in life. But moving past politics, today I'm very excited to interview my friend Stephen. We met when I was an undergrad at Smith. He was in the grad program, and then we got to do a really fun job together that I'm sure we'll get into. He is amazing at dancing, and he also is a professor at a college now. So I'm really excited to hear kind of how he's dealt with COVID and being a professor and all of the challenges that I'm sure that has come with, and also just his transition into, being a dancer and how he ended up in the professor role, because that is a very coveted and important role for the youths. So let me first share with you, as always, I like to hype my guests up, and this is a piece that he danced and choreographed in, and I think it's really genius. It's very cool, and I'm just going to show a little snippet of it. So here we go. Yay! I love that. I want to see the full piece. I've never seen the full piece, so I don't know how. I haven't seen that, but I need to. But please join me in welcoming Stephen. You're
Hello.
here. Hello. You're so far away because we have a very fun craft that we're doing today. Something very different that honestly, I don't know how I'm going to do, but we'll figure it out. This is like, I've had a guest teach me a craft before, but this is the first time that we've had a guest teach me something so involved, and I'm gonna give a little backstory. So basically, over quarantine, you have been exploring a lot of different fun new things to do, and I saw you were making a lot of bread, and I was like, oh my god, you have to teach me how to make bread for my show. I don't know how we're gonna do it. And then we were like, wait, this might be too involved. This might have to be maybe we have a round two when it's we can be together, and we'll pre-record it, because I still really want to learn how to make bread. But today we are going to be making cookies. But first, I will let you say hello. So hello, welcome.
Hi. So I should just talk about who I am. You already gave me a little introduction about how we met. But,
Yeah, well, I want to
yeah.
hear the whole story.
The whole story. Okay. So dance, right? Dance is cool. It's something we do. It's what brought us together.
Sometimes. Theoretically,
Sometimes
we do
cool.
it. Yeah.
Theoretically, we do it. Normally, we try. Yeah, so I grew up dancing at a really big competition studio, and I never thought I was good enough to be a professional dancer. I thought the only options available to me existed in the very commercial realm, and Not that I wasn't a good dancer, I just I'm not a technician. So I'll like lead with that information. Like I can fake it, I can still do a triple pirouette on both sides. Like I got some skills, but
Both sides?
you know,
Honestly, I don't know if I could do that right
sides.
now.
Yeah, but like my leg never gets above 45 degrees. So like in any direction, that's kind of an overstatement. But like definitely not to the back. So like I was never gonna like make it in most commercial endeavors just because I'm like super inflexible, can't point my feet, and like being a guy only gets me so far. So like, which is a whole other issue that we could talk about in terms of like, that sort of privilege in the field. But in any case, I went to school undergrad for economics and Italian studies. Those are my undergraduate degrees, but I was dancing the whole time. And I graduated college in 2010. And like, I don't know if you know much about economic history, but like there was a recession in 2008. And so like, honestly, it saved me from myself. No one was hiring to like go into finance or business. And so I basically had this like low-key triple major where I was dancing like 20 to 30 hours a week, either through the department or through like student groups that I was involved with, which was insane. Like I was just not sleeping and I was doing a million things, which I know you do too.
Yeah.
And so finally a dance teacher of mine was like, like she had just gotten an MFA and she was like, maybe you should get an MFA. And so I went straight to grad school, which is not a trajectory I necessarily recommend for everyone, but it was great because I was able to finally like devote all my time and attention to dance. And I really like being in an educational environment. My parents were both professors once upon a time. And so like I grew up on a college campus, and I always thought that maybe that would be somewhere I ended up. I didn't think that I would be combining teaching with dance, and then I did. So, after grad school, I lived in New York for about a year and a half. I moved back to Boston where I lived for about 5 years. I produced a lot of work, a lot of my own work. I also worked for a dance space. I ended up running a dance space in Cambridge as well. And kind of through a colleague of mine, ended up teaching as an adjunct. And then when she left, I actually ended up getting hired as her 1-year replacement because she left too late in the season for them to do a full search for the following academic year. And then during that 1 year of being her replacement, they decided to keep me. So I kind of landed in a full, I landed in this full-time teaching position, like probably about 5 to 10 years before I thought I would get to that point. And one thing we were talking about before is like a lot of people see teaching in the collegiate setting as being like the end goal. But what's been exciting for me is that it's opened up opportunities to do other things as well. And so I work really hard, or I try really hard to kind of keep a balance between teaching and mentoring students, and also like finding space and time to have creative projects. So
cool. And we'll obviously get into this at some
yes.
point, but one of the cool things that you got to do, which I also was very lucky to get to do, was that we both got to dance in the new Little Women movie together in the same scenes, which was so cool with another friend of mine. It was like crazy that we all saw each other, at the audition. It's crazy that we actually got booked to do the same scene, which was just, it felt so perfect.
Who else did you know in our
Adrian.
Scene?
Adrian went to high school with me.
Oh,
Yeah,
that's right.
I have to have him on as a guest too.
Yeah,
And then
Adrian's great.
the assistant choreographer, the assistant, I don't know what his official title was, Alex.
Yeah.
I had met Alex doing a program at Connecticut College the year after I graduated. Did the David Dorfman summer intensive, and that's how I met Alex. So it was just like all my worlds were coming together. So it was really awesome. But yeah, I don't know. Let's start because we could talk for literally hours.
Forever.
Let's start with first tell our amazing audience what we're making today. It looks amazing from what I read briefly, the title of the recipe.
Yeah, so this is a recipe for Bon Appetit. It's my favorite. I've made it probably about 50 times during quarantine. My husband's a little bit mad that I'm making this again because we're like turning into slugs or whales, depending on how you want to look at it. But they're so good. So these are brown butter and toffee chocolate chip cookies by a chef named Rick Martinez. And so So during quarantine, I got really into like things that have process. And so cooking has been one of those things, baking, bread, and that sort of thing. And so this is one of my favorite recipes because it has a little bit of a process built into it. You got to do some extra work. So we can dive right in. I don't know what you're going to do because your kitchen is not in front of you.
No, I'm kind of plugged into some things. Okay. I don't have a wireless setup because I have only learned so much technology during this quarantine. But I do have multiple supplies here. So I have Heath bars.
Perfect.
I've got flour. I've got sugar. I've got brown sugar. And I've got chocolate chips. And then I've got eggs and butter in the kitchen sitting out.
Okay, so the first thing we have to do is melt butter. So, like, I don't know what you need to do to make that happen, but like, I'm gonna get started. Okay,
cool. I'm gonna skip that step.
You're gonna skip that? Okay, all right.
For now.
Just for now. Okay. Yeah. All right. So you have to brown this butter, which is like a whole thing.
Okay. Yeah. I always wonder what brown butter is because I always read it like brown sugar, like as if the butter is sweet with brown sugar, and it's just that's not it at all.
It's not that at all. So what you're doing is you're melting it, and then you're raising the heat high enough so that it essentially cooks off all the milk solids. So it caramelizes essentially. Yeah.
Wow. So like, have you heard? I'm gonna give you a little
clarified butter.
Amazing. Ooh, the more you know.
Have you heard of clarified butter or ghee?
Yes, and I don't understand it. I'm very pro-dairy, pro-gluten. I eat all the things that everyone hates, so I don't understand these newfangled magic things.
So while my butter is melting, I'll share that.
Yes, tell me.
With ghee and clarified butter, you heat it high enough so that you can like skim off the milk solids. And so it removes some of the dairy component of it and turns it into just like pure fat, which is why it's like a paleo ingredient.
Right, you put it in like coffee, right? It's like
Yep, you can do that. Yeah, it's also a common ingredient in Indian food. But with brown butter, you just like keep on cooking it, and it just like gets a little crispy, and it starts like essentially burning the milk solids, and it turns it into like the whole cookie tastes like toffee.
I'm so excited for this.
Because you're transforming the butter into this like magic, delicious gold. So
I'm drooling.
There it is.
Oh my gosh, amazing. Okay, so what can I do while I'm not doing that? What can you do
while you're not doing that? So the next step after you do that, maybe we should have done this off camera, but like, we're wigging it. It's fine.
It's fine. It's 2020. Anything goes.
It's 2020. Anything is possible. And so I'm a firm advocate for weighing ingredients, but you can use cup measures too. So
you're really professional with this. Have you always been this into like baking, or was this something that really like sparked during the quarantine?
I've always really liked baking and cooking. My mom cooks a lot and my grandmother cooks a lot. So like it's a family thing. But growing up, like my mom just like knew how to make things. So we never followed a recipe. She would just like look at the ingredients and like know what to do. And so like I always kind of was terrible. Well, that's not true. I would like sometimes have good luck and things would turn out well, but I wasn't used to like actually following the ingredients. It was like, you don't need that. We know better. So now that I'm like an adult and I realize that's like not a rational approach to things. Now, and I also like gadgets. So like being able to weigh something is like an extra step that's more gadget inclined versus like just using a cup measure. But yeah, so you're gonna mix your flour, baking soda, and salt together. Amazing. And so it's 2 cups of flour or 250 grams.
I have these measuring cups. 2 of them say they're the same size, but they're very clearly not both 1/4 cup. So they're very accurate.
So baking is chemistry. And
so I'm going to blow up my house with these cookies is what you're telling me.
No. Cookies are low stakes. You'll be fine. Yeah, and then you just put, what is it? A teaspoon of baking soda and 3/4 of a teaspoon of kosher salt, which I just like approximate because I don't
So what if you don't have kosher salt? Because this is a question that maybe you can answer.
Mm-hmm.
I always look for kosher salt because whenever I bake something, it says that that's what I am supposed to use.
Yep.
But my grocery store in Washington Heights never has kosher salt.
Yeah, and you probably just have table salt.
Yeah, and you're supposed to use like a different amount, I think, right? If you have kosher salt.
I used less. So kosher salt has a slightly larger grain. This is the best brand. I don't know if you can see it. It's diamond crystal.
Yes, that's cute.
Yeah, and it technically kosher salt has a lower salinity, which means that it has a lower amount of sodium. So what's nice about it is that it's more flavorful, and you can use a little bit more of it without over salting things.
Oh wow! I'm giving you another one of these.
There we go. But if you just have table salt, just use less. So I would use like between 1/4 and 1/2 teaspoon of kosher salt, and you can eyeball it. It's totally fine.
Cool.
So once you've put the salt and the baking soda, of course, in talking to you, I've like forgotten what I've added. So once you've added those 3 things, you just whisk them together. And like the general rule of thumb actually is to like whisk it together for like a while. More than you think is necessary in order to like actually incorporate and evenly distribute these things. And meanwhile, can you hear bubbling in the background?
I can now. I heard it.
That? There you go. Yeah. So the butter is essentially boiling.
Wow. Okay.
What does that do to our light? Is that weird?
No, I love that. That's very spaceship vibes.
I just like couldn't see what was on the stove. So that was functionally. Yeah. And so what you want to do is like you want to bubble this until it starts turning a little bit golden brown.
Okay.
So I don't know how we're going to get you there, Haley.
I know. This might have to be more of a like observation. Like I watch it first and then I try it later. Like this is the lecture at college and you're demonstrating it. And then my homework is to actually like apply what I've learned.
Yeah. Yeah, so, I love that.
So connecting that for teaching and everything, what are the classes that you teach at your college? Also, what's the college that you teach at? I don't think we said it.
Very quick, we didn't at all. So I'm an assistant professor of dance studies at Dean College, which is a school about 45 minutes south of Boston, kind of halfway between Boston and Providence. I live in Providence now. And so being a dance studies professor means that I oversee our program's dance history and dance like choreography composition coursework. And anytime students are doing research in dance, that's not purely performance, I help out with that. So I'm like super nerdy and like read a lot of theory. So like it's a good fit for me. And yeah, I don't know. That was the end of your question. Was what I do. What I teach.
I love that. Yeah. So that's awesome. So how many students do you see like as some? It's obviously semesters. So like. Yeah. I know you told me that there's about 200 students in the program at Dean, which is so amazing. Coming from the program at Smith, I was one of 8 dance majors in my year, which was crazy. So
yeah, it's funny. I go to like national dance education conferences through NDEO, and like I'm always talking to people, and they're like, "It's really great if you can find 7 students to sign up for choreography classes." And in my case, I'm like, "Well, my challenge is that I have like 30 students in a composition class." And so like, yeah, so it's a big program. I teach every single sophomore, like fall and spring. So I teach them in dance history, for example, in the spring and composition in the fall. And so I usually have somewhere around 100, 125 students that I'm teaching each semester, which is a little crazy. But yeah, so I teach them in their sophomore year when they take Dance History 1 and Comp 1, and then I teach a second semester of Dance History, and I teach usually Comp 3. So we have 3 semesters of composition. I like to teach them like the fundamentals, and then I when possible, I bring someone else in to teach Comp 2, so they can like learn from someone else. And then Comp 3, we get weird. We like do experimental stuff and radical stuff just to like go there, because a lot of the students in our program are pretty commercially focused, at least when they come in. Right. And so a lot of my job is like exposing them to what options are in the field aside from just being a performer.
Nice. I love that. So, for
So
anyone out there, what are some of the different things? 'Cause I know a lot of people that I've talked to, mostly, performers in the industry so far. So, maybe it would probably be interesting for people to hear what are some other dance related jobs that you might get to stay in the industry if you don't necessarily want to be a performer.
yeah, so we teach actually 2 semesters in their freshman year where we go over like career pathways and
Wow,
opportunities. And
as
we bring
freshmen,
them.
that's amazing. I wish I had
Yeah.
that.
Yeah, so it's a 2 semester. It used to be one. Now it's 2 semesters of essentially a freshman seminar, and it's a really great opportunity to also bring in guests who are working in the field in a variety of sectors. One of the biggest programs that our students end up going to are dance medicine focused programs. So we have actually, one of the nice things about being in a big dance program is that we have an in-house athletic trainer for dance. So we have a dance clinic just for dancers. It's incredible.
I'm gonna pass out. I'm so jealous.
It's really great. Have you ever been to Harkness Center
Yes.
for Dance Injury? It's
I
like
was
that.
there for before the pandemic started. I was being seen for both a foot and knee / my knee was hurting because my hip was hurting. So I need all the help I can get. So I'm very jealous. But Harkness was so great.
Harkness is great. And I'm just putting my browned butter now in the fridge to cool while we do other things.
I
Just
love
to update
this.
you.
You're the true Martha Stewart in this relationship right now.
I try my best. Yeah, so because we have someone in-house who does dance medicine, a lot of students are inspired by that, and so they'll go into physical therapy or athletic training. Not so much like actual medical school. They're a little bit more like practitioner focused in terms of doing hands-on work with dancers. But it's a really great pathway for a lot of our kids. A lot of students do dance therapy, and so they're looking at expressive therapy programs, usually working with children who have intellectual learning, physical disabilities, anywhere on any of those spectrums. And so they're using dance as a way to, give these kids opportunities to express themselves. So that's a really great pathway for students. We have a few students, not a ton, but we have a few students who go on to get MFAs and perform in the concert dance world, but a lot of our students too do go into kind of traditional commercial pathways. So we have a lot of kids who are like, moving to New York, auditioning for things, booking cruises and that sort of stuff.
So many cruises.
We have a bunch of kids who, a lot of our students do the Celtics dancers or the Patriots cheerleaders while they're students, actually. So
wow, that's so cool.
Yeah, our college we're the town over from Foxborough, where the Patriots Stadium is. So
that's so convenient. That's awesome.
They like having our dancers. So we usually have anywhere from 2 to 3, maybe even 4 a season who are cheerleaders and dance students at Dean. So
that is so cool.
Yeah, it's a great opportunity for the kids to see kind of how that particular sector works. And yeah, actually the not the head cheerleading coach, but like the assistant to the cheerleading coach for the Patriots is also a Dean Dance alum. So they do a lot of programming with us too. So yeah, but in any case, our students, other things that you could do in the field, right? Like you could go into like technical production of performing arts. Like we have kids who do technical theater as well, and get into stage management, lighting design, stagecraft. We have kids who go into dance writing, and so they'll try to start like, the opportunity to become a dance critic at a major publication is kind of limited right now, but we do have some people who have done internships and a couple of positions at Dance Magazine, Dance Spirit, Dance Teacher Magazine, that sort of stuff. So like people are kind of all over the place. I think, one of my jobs, what I like to instill in students is that like, a lot of people have been told that they have to have a backup plan in dance in case it doesn't work out.
Honestly, that was literally part of my senior seminar. We had to come up with a plan A, a plan B, and a plan C. My plan B and plan C both involved the local show where I'm from called the Slutcracker. Those were my backup plans. Yeah.
Do you know Vanessa who runs the Slutcracker?
I've only seen it one time. And I haven't seen it since, but that was it was kind of a joke because I was like, if anyone knows me and like me doing something called the Slutcracker would be like hilariously ridiculous. So, but that was
I have a lot of respect for the Slutcracker. So the Slutcracker is a burlesque production of the Nutcracker. It's run
it's
by a woman named Vanessa
wild.
White, and Candy Dish, I believe, is her stage name, her burlesque name. She's amazing.
I love
I
it.
am obsessed with her. I worked with her. I was on staff at the dance complex for a year.
Yeah, I was gonna say
and
because you were
yeah,
in Boston, and I know you were working at the dance complex, and then
yep. I bumped into you at the mall once. Remember that?
yes, when I was an
Yes,
elf.
you were an elf.
I
Yeah.
was head elf at the mall. The year,
Oh,
yeah, I didn't want to like brag
no
or
big
anything,
deal.
but I was the main elf. No, there was other great elves that I worked with, and Santa Claus. I got to work very closely with Santa Claus,
Very
and he
closely.
loved
I love that.
brownie bark, the brownie bark. So
Oh, yeah,
for
yeah,
everyone
yeah.
out there, it's almost holiday time. Make sure you leave some brownie brittle for Santa. But yeah, I would definitely want to talk about that also. I mean, like just kind of like your path after graduating Smith and kind of the I mean, I think
Yeah.
after graduating any program or anything, I mean, there's always a lot of transitioning, but I feel like you did a lot of really cool things in the Boston area, and I'd love to hear like more about that like middle time in your life.
Yeah, I bounced around a little bit. So I was in New York for about a year and a half. My husband, who's an actor, he had been living in New York for a year before I moved down. So he was there for 2.5 years. And we picked up a bunch of odd jobs. I was teaching at a dance program in Westchester County. And so I was spending like 4 hours a day on the train going up there to teach, which was actually a really great position. And I networked with a lot of incredible people. But it was hard because it sucked up so much time in commuting, and it paid well given that. But like, I was never really in the city, and I bounced around, and my husband was working a full-time job and a part-time job just so we could like pay our rent. So like I pieced together like 7 part-time jobs. He was working a full-time job and a part-time job, and we left New York because like it just got to a point where we were like working enough to sustain ourselves, but we weren't actually doing the things that we moved to New York to do. And so we saw opportunity in Boston because we felt like, you know, it's egotistical to frame it like this, but I'll say it like this, that like being a bigger fish in a smaller pond is easier. And we thought that was going to be true, and it like kind of wasn't. It was a really good learning experience, but it was a really hard time in our lives. 5 years in Boston was really draining. There are some really great people in Boston. I'm really glad I met them, but like, the industry in Boston, I would say, is a little bit of a crisis. There's a lot of, I mean, as it is anywhere, and especially right now, post COVID, that's hilarious.
I know.
When will that be? But like, I don't know.
This is forever. No, just kidding.
This is forever. But like, like most places will be, Boston was kind of in that moment anyway. But I had a great set of opportunities. There was a group of artists from Boston that we all went to London and performed for a week. Actually, the piece that you just showed a clip from, we did at Chisenhale Dance Space in East London. It's like a small kind of experimental, kind of like postmodern-ish space.
Cool.
And what else? I booked a major a LORT contract. So I booked an equity contract at Trinity Repertory Theater in Providence. Actually, I was a cowboy in Oklahoma, so I got my equity card, which is like a big deal for me.
Oh my gosh, I didn't realize that you were.
Yeah,
that is amazing. I mean, there is.
It was my one and only contract, but like
No, but there is a lot to say where like I think it's kind of, a lot of people think it's like New York or LA and like there's no other possible place you can be successful in the arts, and that's just not true at all. I mean, obviously the Boston dance scene is like much smaller, and like for myself, like there's not as much of like what I'm interested in doing if I want to do, film and TV or like that kind of stuff. But plot twist, the biggest job I've ever booked was being home in Boston doing Little Women. So it's interesting. It's like I think people get really stressed out about having to be in New York City, and like it is really expensive, and it is really, really draining. Just physically living here is more exhausting than, because you have to interact with so many people all the time. So it is, it's possible to have a career in the arts anywhere. And you have a lot of, I think, just in New York and anywhere, you have to make it happen for yourself. Like, no one's going to hand you any career in any field, but especially in the arts, no one's just going to hand you your dream jobs. Like, you really have to work for what you want in any aspect of life. So I think you can make it happen wherever you want to be.
You know, I'm glad you brought that up, because I think, you know, one thing that I try to instill in my students is that, like, a big part of being an artist is defining success for yourself. And usually our preconceived notions of what success means are, like, not rooted in reality. And what I've learned in my time on this earth, my, like, old age, my elderly age, now that I'm in my 30s, is that 99% of opportunities you get are because of personal connections that you have. And which sounds like it's like, oh, all this is for nothing if it's just about who you know, but it's less about who you know and more about how you interact with them. And I would say, like, every great opportunity I've had has been because I've, like, forged a positive relationship with someone, and I haven't been too needy or asked too much of them, but they know that I'm a reliable person. Like, Little Women, I think, was part of that, like the opportunity that I had with that. Monica Bill Barnes, who choreographed it, said a piece while I was at Smith, while you were abroad, actually.
Yes, I missed that. I was so bummed. So I did have a great time in London, though.
Of course you did. And I had known Alex, who was one of her assistants on the shoot, and not that I didn't necessarily, like, earn that audition, because I think we all did, but, like, you know, it helped to have an established relationship that, like, they knew that I wasn't gonna, like, flake or be shady or anything like that.
And, like, you weren't going in, like, blind. Like, they knew. It's true. Like, it's a lot of, I mean, most jobs that I know that people have gotten, it's like they know them through someone, or they know them through even class, or, like, you know, it's I think it's very rare to book a very big job. I mean, they didn't know me, but Alex knew me, so I don't know. I don't think he probably had much to say, but, like, you know, it's really hard to just book something blind without having any sort of connection or networking. So that is, I think that's also
never happens. That's the thing. It rarely happens.
Going to an open call for a Broadway show, like, that's going to be pretty rare if you're going to book that show just from, like, showing up at 6 a.m. So,
well, and what I'd say too is that, like, I think a big part of navigating this industry is, like, learning how to trust people and learning who to trust. And I think that was a big learning curve for me. Was, like, I got some cool opportunities. Like, in between years that I was at Smith, I got to perform in South Africa, which was a really amazing opportunity. It was with the professor, actually, who told me to go to grad school. She was, her thesis piece, her project from her graduate program, which was, like, an hour long, got accepted to a dance festival in Cape Town. And so I got to go with them. And overall, it was a positive experience, but it turned out through that experience that we didn't have the best relationship. I still talk to her once in a while, but, like, you know, it was a challenging time. And, you know, I think through that process, I think both of us would probably say, like, yeah, maybe we won't work together again, you know, but, like, if I had, like, thought about that a little bit more before doing it, like, I think I was blinded by the opportunity, and I'm glad I did it. I don't regret it at all, but, like, it was one of these moments where afterwards I was like, you know, maybe I need to be a little bit more mindful about what I sign up for. You know, like, have a better self-awareness about, like, what types of relationships I'm forging around me. So, you know, that sounds like I'm calling someone out, because it's really not like that. No. It's just, like, sometimes it's not right to work with everyone. You know, like, you don't have to get along with everyone.
That is something that I am definitely learning, and especially I think that's become really clear in quarantine, just in general, of, like, who are your people? And your people don't have to be and can't be everyone. And
Correct.
Like, that is something that has been so clear during this whole situation. And also, I've been going through the Artist's Way, and one of the things that I read, I don't know if it was this week or last week, and one of the quotes from it was, like, you know, obviously saying no to someone else is saying yes to yourself. And, like, you have to have boundaries, and, like, you have to know, like, I also get stuck. Like, I mean, at Smith, I would be in, like, 15 different dances at one time, learning at different schools. I would travel to different schools because I was hungry to dance and I wanted to move, but I definitely did not do all of those things at 100%, plus doing all my regular Smith classes, which are already intense enough.
Which
So
are hard, yeah.
it was like,
I hear you.
you know, it's like you want to be doing everything, and you want to, you know, it's so hard because it's like, especially if you really love what you're doing and you're like hungry to dance and hungry to move and hungry to be in the industry, but like, are you really doing it to your full capacity if you're saying yes to everything? And are you going to actually possibly not have a great relationship with someone at the end of the day if it's, you know, it's not right and it wasn't the right timing or the right like it wasn't really for you, and like it might have messed something up. So I think that's definitely something that unfortunately I think it comes with age and experience. Like maybe everyone has to experience that and go through it in order to believe it.
Well,
but
so I will just interject and say, first of all, I think we're both being really diplomatic in how we're communicating this and being nice. I think we've probably both experienced where like we say yes to everything and we get abused by people. And I think when you say yes to everything, you actually devalue yourself, right? People expect you to essentially have no worth because you give yourself away to everyone. Wow. And I think, and what I would say too is that we're conditioned to do that. We're told that in the arts, because there's no money anywhere, you have to say yes to everything in case one of those things pans out. And I just that exact same thought. Like if you say yes to everything, people get used to having to not pay you and not have to actually value you for what you're worth. And we end up saying yes to everything and things that we shouldn't. And like in this particular moment, politically speaking, when like we're having a reckoning about like, you know, the centering of male voices, the centering of white voices, like I've said yes to jobs teaching hip hop that I had no reason or like expertise to say yes to, but because I was there and I said yes to everything, right? Like people knew me and I was like, well, like I have some background in this, like I could teach it, but like I'm not the best person to do this. And like I think I got to a certain point in my career where I was like, I need to stop saying that I can do everything. Because when you do everything, you're really doing nothing, right? Like I think, and letting go of that was a really important step for me. It was like, oh, like, yeah, I can teach tap, but I don't have to teach tap. And like, I haven't taken a tap class since I was actually at Smith. Like I took, Josh Hilberman taught a class at Mount Holyoke, and he's an amazing tap legend, but like, yes, I can teach, but like, I'm not a professional tapper. It's not what I do. And so like, you know, I think I've gotten to a point where I have to like move on from that feeling where you have to say yes to everything and be desperate for it. So,
and it elevates with I think also with that, it's like when you say no to things, you're actually elevating the entire industry because it leaves space for actual experts to come in and fill those spots. And
it is.
And it's also, especially, I mean, with the pay thing, we could talk forever about that. And that's something I think is really hard because we don't, you know, oh yeah, you mixed that. No. I forgot we're making cookies.
We're making cookies.
I forgot we're making cookies. No, but also it's like, that's another thing where it's like, I think one of the reasons why like dance education is so important is because if we don't learn the proper pay, and because like you can't just join a union like you can in England, you just join equity. You don't have to like book a job to get it. So it's like if we don't have the proper education and a standard of rates, and which, you know, Dancers Alliance, I've talked about this with other people, it's like, you know, but there's always someone like ready to do it for free or ready to do it for $100 when it should be a $500 to $700 job for the day or something like that. Like those are all things, like it's hard when we all have to kind of say no to things to elevate the entire craft so that it can be better for everyone ultimately over time. And that is like such a hard thing to get people on board with. So I don't know.
I think one of the challenges too, and I face this because I run 2 small dance projects, one of which is the duet project that you showed a video from, who was from one colleague from grad school actually. And then I also run a small dance company that's kind of on hiatus right now, but with Stephanie and Rebecca, also from Smith, called Reject Dance Theater. And, you know, we don't have unlimited resources. We don't have a ton of funding. But what we do actually do is we give our dancers opportunities to choreograph. And we'll like, it's a collaborative process, and as much as we don't have the funds to like really support them financially, we do see it as our responsibility to at least we pay them something, but then we also provide opportunities for them. So like, and you know, like Bridget Cronin actually dances with us. You know Bridget, right? Okay. So Bridget's danced with us several times, and like, you know, I was talking to her about this. She choreographed a piece for the company back in the day, and she was just like, no, like obviously, like there are other opportunities that might pay more, but like it's helpful to be an environment of artists who support each other. And I think that was like the biggest compliment anyone told us was that like we were at least providing that opportunity, whereas like a lot of people who run companies do it for themselves, right? Like they do this because it elevates their own personal name. And so one thing that was important to Stephen, Rebecca, and I was like, if we're going to have a company, it helps us all create a portfolio of work together. Maybe we get some recognition, maybe not. But at the end of the day, like it's not named after any of us, right? Like it's about the collaborative process. And I think, you know, especially in an industry that can't necessarily pay anything, you know, you might as well, if you're going to be spending your time or volunteering your time, donating your time, it needs to be worthwhile. You need to be doing it with people who are like supporting you and uplifting you, and who are going to be those people later on who will create opportunities for you.
Yeah. And maybe it's definitely, you have to weigh all the different factors, and like maybe a situation is actually emotionally paying you in a way that's valuable and teaching you, and you have to be able to recognize those opportunities. Obviously, not everything in life is going to be a monetized, like there's value that's not money. So it's finding those opportunities as well, which I think is really important. And I also want to share a little thing in the comments. We have Erica, and she just wanted to say hi. And she says, I took Erica. Lester's Globalization of Dance course at Smith with Stephen, and was always so impressed by his intelligence. It's nice to see him again. And she sent a heart. So I just wanted to read that to you.
That's super sweet. Oh, Erica. I remember Erica.
And Erica just had the cutest little baby. So shout out to Erica and Ollie.
Oh, congratulations.
She had a pandemic baby, which is a feat.
Wow. Well, I can share too. One thing in my pandemic prep process is that my husband and I are waiting for adoption placement. So we're like, one thing that I've been spending my pandemic time doing is setting up a nursery in the other room. So
oh my gosh. Yeah, oh my gosh, I'm so excited.
It's a wild time to be waiting for a baby, but
wow.
But yeah, it's a little nuts.
Oh my goodness. Well, while you blend that, I'm going to get our first game going, so that way we can do that. And you feel free to blend to your heart's content that you need to, because obviously I'm slacking in the cookie making process.
It's okay. I can give us an update on where we're at while you're doing whatever you're doing.
Perfect.
So as I start eating the
I'm about to just eat this bar, honestly.
Do it. Live your dream. So I creamed the brown butter, and sugar.
Halloween is over. We don't want booger cookies.
I added eggs and vanilla. It's a super simple recipe, but it's delicious because you're caramelizing everything. And so I added the dry ingredients, and now I just have to add some toffee and some chocolate chips. And one thing you could use Heath bars, you could use Score bars. I have Heath chips and a bunch of chocolate chips. I'll just use all of them. And you could use leftover Halloween candy. That's always going to be delicious. If you can't find Heath bars, you don't have to add them. They add some like rich buttery toffiness, but like because of the brown butter, you kind of don't need it because it's like caramelized and toffee-ish already. But if you do have it, it's even better. So yeah. So that's where we're at. I'm just mixing in the delicious pieces, and then I'll put them on a cookie sheet and throw them in the oven, and we can party.
Well, while you mix, we're going to play... Would you rather? Okay,
can't wait.
So I love this game. I say this every time, but because so much of the point of this show, I mean, I know we've mostly talked about dance, but we've talked about important things that I think are interesting and also like unrelated to like actually dancing. The whole point of this show is to get to know people as people and dancers as people and celebrate that we are humans outside of dance. And I think that Would You Rather is a really quick way to see how people's brain works. So I love just seeing what people think of these silly questions from this, honestly, the best Secret Santa gift I've ever gotten at a holiday party. So,
all right.
Would you rather? Oh wait, no, this one has already been done. What happened? Oh, these are these upside down? I swear I mixed them up so that way I wouldn't get repeats. Oh, okay, here we go. Would you rather be chased by a supervillain for the rest of your life, or burp once every 30 seconds for all eternity?
I would burp every 30 seconds.
Wow.
I have a backstory for that, but like I don't know how gross you want to get. So I've had 2 stomach surgeries in my life because I had chronic acid reflux. GERD is what it's called, gastroesophageal reflux disease. And so there's this surgery where if it's bad enough, which in my case it was, like I had acid damage to my rear molars. And this is like when I was 21, I was young. Like most people who get the surgery are like in their 40s or 50s. And so
So your stomach was literally eating the rest of your body.
Basically, yeah. So I had the surgery when I was 21, 2 days after my 21st birthday, which is like a really great gift, to have stomach surgery. But sorry, this is a whole story you didn't ask for.
No, I want to know about you as a person. I want to know you, the true you, stomach and all.
Part of the side effects, it's a really effective surgery that unfortunately for me failed after 10 years and I had to have it redone this past year. But one of the side effects is that some people can't burp at all. So I'm lucky enough to be able to burp. And so I choose that answer because for me it's a celebration of the fact that there it is, that I can burp. So for me it's just like showing off how skilled I am.
Wow. Who would have known this random question?
Yeah.
Okay, next. Would you rather? Would you rather have to wear an itchy sweater every day forever, or have visible farts?
I feel like I would rather have visible farts.
Wow.
Because I feel like at least it's like a conversation starter.
Hopefully it's like a pretty color or something. It's not like like an evil face that comes out or something. I don't know what it would.
Well, and also there's no information there about whether or not they're smelly, and so I feel like it could just be your thing.
Like a little poof of color.
Just a little poof, yeah.
Okay,
so
last.
What I just did, I salted the cookie dough. I put flaky sea salt on it, and now I'm putting it in the oven.
Oh my god, amazing.
And not burning myself.
That's a skill, honestly. That's a skill.
I'm burning myself. Go ahead.
Okay, last one. Would you rather live alone on the moon or have scissors for hands?
Sorry, I just took a huge bite of cookie dough.
I'm really jealous.
Sounds really gross. It's really good. Alone on the moon forever or scissors for hands? That seems like the obvious answer would be alone on the moon forever, but I feel like I'd have to go with scissors for hands because I'm way too much of a social person. I'm very fortunate to be married and to have a dog and to have space around me, and so quarantine actually for me hasn't been that bad because it's been an opportunity to say no to things and to stay home and to just be with my husband, and my parents live around the corner, and I have family time. So yeah, I need people. I can't be alone.
Yeah, I love that. Well, that brings us to our next segment. We've obviously we've kind of been talking about everything, which I could talk to you literally for hours because I just think you're so smart. And also I miss you and I haven't actually gotten to talk to you. We've only been connecting through liking each other's stuff on Instagram. The last time I physically saw you was when we were filming Little Women, which was so crazy that oh my gosh.
It was 2 years ago.
What a dream. It's crazy how long ago we shot it and then how long we had to wait for it to come out. And then now it's been out and we got our first residual check, which was very
exciting.
But yeah, so I'd love to talk just a little bit more about like your passions outside of dance. We've obviously talked a little bit about that, but just like some of the stuff that you find solace in as a human being, because I know we both are big believers that like being a this is getting so intimate. Of course, like we obviously both are big believers that being a full human is actually very beneficial to your artistic life as well. So I'd love to hear some of your other passions.
So as I think I alluded to earlier, like I'm addicted to things that involve a process, which is not necessarily surprising that as like I'm predominantly see myself as a choreographer, that like I like a creative process. And so so I grew up knitting. My mom is an avid knitter. And so like once in a while, I don't do it consistently, but like I'll get really into it. And I can whip out a pair of socks with like a really fine gauge in like 2 days. I'm like obsessive with it. If I dive into it, I dive deep. And so like I started knitting when I was like 5 years old. I'm a low-key fiber artist on the side.
You're like a prodigy.
When I applied for it. No, I'm not. I can make like 2 things and I do it like obsessively. But what I like about knitting is that there's like a tactile component to it and like it's very therapeutic. So I like that, but I've also been crafting around the house and doing some DIY stuff. I have some garage space here, and so I like built a workbench in there with like a pegboard and organization. And I have power tools, and like it's been fun. This week, actually, my husband and I did a curtain project where we bought these curtains that have a really great pattern, but they had grommets on the top and they were really ugly. And so we cut the top of them off and like created a different hanging system and hung them all. Like I had a sewing machine out here. It was all fabric-y. And then
I love that. Apologies for anyone who can hear me chewing. If this is ASMR, maybe not. Maybe you hate chewing. I can't stop eating these Heath bars.
They're so good, right? And
that's what I haven't had one in so long.
So they're so perfect. What I will say, to save me from myself, but also to like stretch out how much I get to eat in terms of cookies and for how long. Because if I make all the cookies, if I bake them, I'll eat them all in 24 hours. Because I'm like, you know what? It's better for me if I just binge and then I won't have them anymore. Like Halloween candy, I'm going to eat it all in one night and it's going to be horrible. But like the next day I can have a salad.
Yeah.
And it's healthy, right? But what I do is I only make as much as I can bake at once and then I freeze the rest. Yeah, because I can make like, how many do I have in there? I have like 16 in there that are like pretty big, but I have like a whole like quart-sized takeout container that I froze that's just like leftover. And my neighbors across the street, actually, they're awesome. One of them was telling me that when they make cookies, they just put the dough in a log and freeze it so they can have their own slice and bake. And so it forces them to just cook one at a time. In any case, that wasn't the question.
You are dropping gems. You are dropping genius moments for people.
Well, because like who doesn't want to have like it's the middle of the night, like you're hungry, you want a snack, but like suddenly you realize that you have like enough for like maybe only 2 or 3, but 2 or 3 like really good cookies in your freezer, and you just like whip it out and bake it or eat it raw because it's delicious. So
I support that. That's genius.
What was your question about like what I've been doing during
quarantine? Just like passions outside of dance. I guess like things that like help you recenter yourself and like, make sure that you're okay.
Yeah. I was talking to some people the other day about like what's weird about this. Well, so I've like been to our previous conversation about saying yes to too many things. Like I was already in the beginning stages of like decluttering my life of things that I had said yes to when quarantine happened. And so it's been a good excuse to like expedite that process. But what's been weird about it is that like I kind of don't miss dance, which is a weird thing to say. Like it's been a very productive break from dance.
Yeah.
And I've been so busy too teaching over the last 5 years in my faculty appointment that like I felt a lot of guilt about not dancing more during that time. And now that I can't dance, I realize that I don't miss it as much. And so I think it doesn't mean that I don't want to dance when this is over, but I think it's been inspiring in that I now know that I have to be like much more intentional about how I spend my time dancing and who I say yes to, again, to our previous conversation. And like, the company I run with Steph and Rebecca, who you both know, you know both of them. Sorry.
And they both know me. Am I one person, or I might have multiple personalities? It's a topic for another day.
We've been dormant for a few years, basically since I got my faculty appointment. I haven't had enough time to like really invest in it, and they've had other stuff going on too. But like, I think we're gonna start doing stuff again, which is exciting. And like, I think we all have like very different careers at this point, and we collaborated on this dance company together after grad school. But I think, like, do you know Danny Swain from the Boston area? He was on staff at the dance complex with me when I was working there. He teaches
a picture. Maybe I'm better at like seeing people's faces than knowing their names.
So I remember like I was feeling a lot of pressure because it was like Reject Dance Theater's 4th season, and I was like, oh, next year's the 5th year, and like I don't know if I have the capacity to do this. And this is when I got that LORT contract working in musical theater and got my equity card, and I was like diving into a 10-week rehearsal process with that. And he was just like, you can have your 5th season like 20 years from now. It doesn't have to be 5th consecutive season. Like, you can take breaks and just like do what you want. And so I've kept that in the back of my mind this whole time in terms of like, yeah, we never really had a 5th season, but like we could have one next year, right? Like, it kind of doesn't matter. You can define that for yourself. And like, I've also always firmly believed that like, we create our own histories. I'm not saying we invent our resumes, but like we all have been there where we sit down and we write our bio and we choose to make things sound as important as we want them to. And so I think that's a good reminder to like you have the opportunity to like figure out what's important to you, and you can make it as important as it is. As an aside, talking about bios, one of my mentors and dance professors from college always says that like you can tell how important someone is by how short their bio is. She's like, the Queen of England, she doesn't need a bio. It just says Elizabeth, Queen, period. Right?
Literally.
So like when you see people who have these like paragraphs and paragraphs of bios, like you don't need it. Right? Like if you're really that important, you wouldn't have to tell us. And like that's not me calling people out on it, but like, and like we all feel pressure because we're told we have to do those things, but like,
right. It's like who decided? Who decided? That's the thing also. It's like, like more than any time in the world, it's very clear that we just made all this up. Like, nothing is real. We're all just like animals.
Nothing is real.
Nothing is real. We're just animals, and we all made this up, and we get so stressed out about these like social structures and social norms and like industry standards and all of these things, which obviously like there are reasons that these things exist, but also at the end of the day, like, we made it all up. So if it's really stressing you out and like not working for you, and like the path that is like most common and most followed is making you miserable as a human, you don't have to walk down that path. There are many other paths, and you just need to find yours. And like, I say that, and it's like, obviously it's harder to take that advice than to say it. Like, everyone knows that, but it's like, it really is true. Like, you don't just have to do what everyone thinks you have to do. There are so many ways. And of course, like you said even earlier about like defining success for yourself, it's like you get to decide if you are successful, if you are happy. Like, everyone has a different version of success, and like fame isn't always success. Making a ton of money isn't always success. Like, there's so many ways to be successful in the arts and just in life in general and as a human. And like, I think hopefully this time has been a great opportunity where like we don't really have so many distractions and things that we have to do or can do even, that you can actually take the time to figure out like, well, who am I? Like, what do I like? What do I believe in? Are those the cookies?
Those are the cookies. I had to check them. I made them kind of big, so it might not be right. Oh yeah, they're enormous.
Amazing. I'm so jealous that...
I need 3 more minutes.
I'm so jealous that they're there.
This recipe is not actually hard, so once we're done, you should actually make them.
I will. I'm so excited.
Well, like, to your point, wait, I got distracted by cookies. Yeah, in terms of defining success, I think, and like, I found it, sorry. I found it in my brain. To your earlier point, like at the very start of this was like educating the whole person and like being a complete person. Yeah, I mean, I think like if you've dedicated yourself to like fitting a mold in an industry, then like you fit yourself into a mold and you're no longer yourself. And honestly, I think the most interesting people that I've met in this field are people who've had really big obstacles in their way, whether it's a physical limitation or a financial limitation or like trauma, life events, anything, because they've had something to overcome and that process teaches them more about who they are. Whereas the people I know who are the most lost, like personally lost, are the people who like can do everything. Because they can be so like versatile and fit into so many different boxes, they haven't figured out what their box is yet. That's not true of every single person, but I feel like the people in my life who are like exceptionally more technical and exceptionally more virtuosic in their physicality oftentimes have a much harder time finding out who they are because they haven't had that pushback about what they can't do in order to like make them value what they want and need. So yeah, I think this is a really important opportunity. One thing I always tell my students is like, I didn't go into dance because I didn't think I was good enough. And then the economy crashed when I was in college. And actually I studied abroad and I was super depressed. I was living in Italy. It was an amazing opportunity, but I wasn't able to dance for 4 months. And I didn't think, because I wasn't a dance major, I wasn't gonna go into this field, I didn't think that would matter. And then I got there and I was the most depressed I've ever been in my life. I was so miserable. And coming back from there and realizing that I needed that to be happy was a super like important milestone in my life. I don't know how I didn't mention that. That's weird. But like what I've been telling all my students is like, this is kind of like everyone's opportunity to have Stephen's depressing semester abroad. Like you're forced to go away from it. And like, it forces you to reevaluate what you like and what you can discard. So yeah.
Mic drop. That was amazing. No, seriously, it's just, there's so much going on in the world. There's so much potential and there's so much that can happen. But I think ultimately, like what I've learned in all my years, is that like, it really is like, I say this all the time, but the people that I know who are the most like, the people that I look up to, and I look up to people, obviously, not just talent. There's also, like, how you act as a person, and also, like, what lives do you aspire to be? Because, like, you can aspire to have a certain type of career, but, like, at the end of the day, your job is your job. And, like, do you like the person when they're not performing? Or when, like, do you like their life as a human? Do you want their full life? Because you don't just get to be, like, a dancer and then you like unplug and you're just like unless you're like literally a robot. But like these performers, they have lives, they have schedules, they have all these different things, and it's like you have to look at the whole person to determine like what you want, how you want to live your life. And it's not just your career. And I know it's hard with dance because I think we are our instrument. Like our bodies are physically our instruments. So that's also really hard where like you literally can't like leave your work at work because you walk out in your work, in your body. And so it's like it's so personally connected to us. So it's like, of course you have to like really take care of your inner self, your health and your mental health and your full life if you want to be happy in your career also. Like it goes hand in hand, but it's something that I think is so commonly like cut off, and we don't really have, I don't know if it's really like taught like that. Like I know like when you're learning dance, you learn steps, you learn you know that. And like I think lately there's been more like programs and like teachers who like mentor people and teach kind of like the whole package, which is really great. But I think that needs to start from a younger age. And I mean, I think that's just in general, at least our country needs to teach about mental health and taking care of yourself in all aspects. And like, it's very clear we don't really know what we're doing.
What I'd say, particularly in the dance industry, I think one of the challenges in our field is that people assume that if they're good technicians, and we talked about this earlier, if they're good technicians or they've been successful, that they're good teachers. and not everyone's a good teacher. And honestly, one of the things that I really love about the program I teach in at Dean is that we're aware of the fact that we're a large program with a lot of students who come from the local area. And a lot of those kids, after they graduate, go back and teach at their home studios, or they teach at other studios in the region. And a lot of dance programs don't invest in that feedback loop. Like, you can influence the students who are going to apply to your dance program in the future if you make your students better teachers, who will then teach students to be better and whole people, right? Who will then advertise your program for you. And so like what I really love about Dean's program is that we've really invested in dance pedagogy, and like students have 2 semesters of it if they go into the teaching track, which is really great.
That's amazing.
And you know, we have a lot of amazing students who come our way because their teachers were our students as well. And you know, whereas a lot of programs, especially the more elite programs, and I won't say any names, or elite institutions that have dance programs, look down on people who go back into teaching dance because they feel like, oh, you should be this like avant-garde performer or choreographer. Whereas like teaching is a skill, and just because you're a good dancer and just because you're a good choreographer does not mean you're good at teaching. Most people are not, and that doesn't mean that like you can't be a good teacher. It's just it's a whole separate process that you have to invest in, and you have to actually separate your own ego from the scenario when you're teaching. Like you're like, you know, I have taught in a lot of different settings. Like I've taught little kids, I've taught adults, I've taught college students, and like people are vulnerable when they're dancing. And when you're teaching kids who are probably spending more time with you than they are with their families. And so you have a huge impact on their worldview and like how they treat other people. And dance is a social activity. And so like you're monitoring how they're interacting with other and learning how to like build trust with people, both emotionally and physically. And the fact that our field doesn't seem to care about pedagogical skills is crazy. It's really, really crazy. And we talked about this before in terms of like in the commercial industry, like, you know, a lot of the best case scenario is you go to a commercial dance class and like you get in someone's YouTube video, and like, not that that's a bad thing, but like, did you really show up and take class, or did you just show up and maybe wave in the background of someone else's video? And again,
why
like,
are you taking class also is another thing. Like, are you taking class to like perform and get seen, or are you taking class to learn? And I think that that's also something that you have to really find sometimes the most popular teachers. Like, obviously I have a lot of friends who are teachers, and like I have friends who are really great teachers, but also like sometimes the most popular teachers are not actually the best teachers. They're just popular. And like sometimes the teachers who can actually really, really teach you something have no following and no one knows who they are. So it's like you really have to take your dance education into your own hands and really research what are you spending your money on? Are you spending your money on the opportunity to like potentially be in a group and maybe get videoed for YouTube? Or are you taking class to learn? Are you taking class to show off, or are you taking class to learn? Like, those are some things that like you really have to do some soul searching. And I think when you're in the swing of it and you're just going, it's really easy to forget about like, why are you taking class? Are you taking class because you feel like you need to take class because you need people to see that you're there, and that if you're there, that means you're a real dancer. If you take a break from dance, you're not a real dancer. And like, you know, it's like, it's so much. And now that that's kind of been removed, like we can take class in our living room on Zoom, but still in New York, like we can't really go into studios unless you're in an after school kids program, which is open somehow. But like, it's really a great opportunity. I hope people are taking it to really like, just like we said with saying yes to everything, like really home edit, watch that Netflix show, and then apply it to your dance career as well. Like,
well, listen, like I think, you know, I will backtrack a little bit and say that like, I think we just need to see these opportunities as different. Right. And maybe in this day and age, in terms of like how dancers put themselves in social media, like it's maybe necessary to go to classes like that where you get seen and you have that exposure. But I think you can't only do that. Right. Like you need to invest in your own professional development. And like in any other field, right? Like if you work in the corporate world, you have to like do some professional development. Maybe that means you have to get licensure along the way. But like, I think we forget that as performers. We assume that like showing up is enough, but like doesn't really feed you or fuel you or like keep you in good shape either. So, you know, you have to like prioritize what's going to keep you going, right? Like emotionally, physically, energetically. Yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I think,
See, obviously we don't have all the answers. No one does. But like, I don't know. I think these conversations are really important to have and just to like think about and take a step back. And it's obviously also easier said than done, all of these things. Because like, do I follow all these things? No, not always. But like, it's so great to just think about. And I see
a giant cookie. It's really good.
Oh my goodness, that looks so professional. And that honestly is the perfect transition because it's time for, let me put our little questions.
You're listening to me chew. Okay.
I love it. And actually, this is actually an ASMR show, exclusively ASMR. Okay, so I have these questions mostly from the internet. Is this giving you the tingles? I have these questions that are mostly from a website of questions to ask your dad, which they had some fun questions on there. So I'm going to randomly pick one from each. They're loosely color coordinated.
Okay.
And some of them are deep. Some of them are kind of funny. And if any of them are too deep, which none of them are really super deep, but you can always pass. So don't feel pressure. I love it. I mean, we talked acid. We talked farts. We talked cookies. Okay. Those are the 3 topics, you know, of life.
Acid, farts, cookies.
That's the pillars.
Sorry, I wouldn't chew on camera.
I literally can't even
these
hear
are
it. I can't even hear
so
it.
Good.
And I was eating a full-on Heath bar, so don't worry. I need to make like a super cut of like all the times I've been eating on this show, because like I was eating Skittles one time, I started choking. I've eaten so many things. So pick a color, any color.
Blue.
All right. Who is your partner in crime? This could be an easy question, maybe.
So like the easy answer would be my husband, but like actually it's my friend Sarah, who's like my best friend from college, and we became friends because we hated the same people. And we used to like, oh no, we're awful. Sorry, I'll stop talking about terrible life stories. We once showed up to a friend's birthday party, we didn't like her, and this is in college, and we stole alcohol from her birthday party and then left.
The tea is being spilled. This is
I'm
drama.
a terrible person.
No, it's okay.
Moment of self-reflection of how terrible I was in college. Yikes.
It happens, but you've learned and grown from it, so it's okay.
I have. I'm a much better person now, I promise.
Pick a color.
Wait, is that purple, pink, and orange?
Yes.
Okay. Pink.
And for me, it's blue, yellow, and green, because there are different colors on the other side.
Oh, interesting.
So it's a game for me, too. Okay. What is one thing you are deeply proud of in your life?
My proudest accomplishment is my I want to say my first year teaching full-time at Dean. I kind of discovered that one of my students was like really, really brilliant. Like she was super quiet in the back of class and never participated. And then she wrote these really, really intelligent, great papers. And she was really active on campus in the student dance scene, but not in the department dance scene. And like I convinced her to apply to grad school for dance. And she got into OSU, which is one of the top MFA programs, straight out of undergrad. Like I called her into my office and I was like, you have to go to grad school. Like you're brilliant. You're really, really smart and your work is good. And like she emailed me the next day and she was like, I've decided that grad school is for me. And like it was super cute and earnest. And she's just like a wonderful, brilliant artist. And I'm so proud of her. And I feel really lucky that I was able to be in that opportunity to like show her that she had the potential to do that. And like, I don't take credit at all for her journey, but like, I feel like it was like my most meaningful moment in education was like discovering that someone really needed to do this with their life and they did it and they are doing well. So that's what I'm most proud of.
And I'm so excited because you're going to have so many stories like that. Like I don't know, like teachers are so important. And like now that you have this, like you're going to have such a role and such like a, like you're like helping the future generations of dance. And I think you're going to have so many stories. Like I'm so excited that you're in this position because I think that you're brilliant. And so I'm excited to see like your influence on people going out into the dance world. That's like such a powerful opportunity. So that's really awesome.
It's been fun to see like I don't want all my students to make work that looks like mine, but it's been fun to like show them what I do and teach them how I approach it and then see what they do with it. Like it's been really interesting actually to see what comes out of that because the quality of work that's come up now has been really fascinating because kids have like the momentum to do cool stuff. So yeah, anywho, next question. Purple, whatever color that is for you.
Blue.
Ooh.
Who has been your biggest influence?
My biggest influence. I can answer that in a couple of ways, like professional crushes, like people whose career I love versus like maybe mentors who have impacted my career enough. So I'll answer it both ways. So I have two professional like obsessions. One is Doug Elkins, who created the piece Fraulein Maria, which is this brilliant modern dance reconstruction of The Sound of Music, which is my favorite musical of all time. And he's just like so smart and cool. And the other is Alexander Ekman, who's a Scandinavian choreographer, and he does a lot of like contemporary ballet work. If you haven't seen his production of Swan Lake, it's like mind blowing. And he has this piece called Cacti that he's set on the Boston Ballet that I've seen a few times. He's just so smart and playful and whimsical, but his dancing is like really good and he just like creates worlds. So those are my like professional crushes that I'm obsessed with. My biggest influence in terms of like someone who's mentored me and provided me like a huge amount of support, especially in applying for faculty positions, is Lester Tomei from Smith. Lester, who's like one of the most like, in my career, like he's been one of the most like solid supports in my life. Like I actually haven't talked to him in a while and I should reach out to him and tell him that.
I know.
He
Maybe
wrote
I'll
me a recommendation.
interview him. That would be.
You should. He's
I
hilarious.
would be so nervous. I love Lester.
I love Lester. He is just like a really wonderful person, and he wrote me recommendations. Like when I was up for a different faculty appointment right when I moved to Boston. Actually, it was like 2 years out of grad school, and it was too soon. It would have been great if I got it, but like it was too soon. But he wrote me a recommendation, and then they called him because he was a reference, and then he brought me out for coffee and was like, here's what they asked me, here's how I would like answer questions if they ask you about certain things. Like he totally guided me through that process, only like because I asked for help, and like he was just really supportive, and so I'm super grateful for the amount of investment that he put in my career, because I would not be here if it weren't for Lester Tomei. I mean, I have many people who've been really wonderful mentors. Roger is another person at Smith who like really like he was wonderful in my thesis project. But like, yeah, I think about all these people who have had really fundamental impacts on my career trajectory. So anywho, that was a longer answer than the question that you asked.
I love that. And I just love thinking back to our time at Smith. I haven't really been able to be back, or over the quarantine, I took a few of Roger's classes on Zoom.
Oh, you did?
Which was just like the best experience, even though I was just in my living room using a cat scratcher for a ballet bar. Like it was just like the best time. I really need to reconnect with my dance family. You know what I mean? It's like sometimes it's hard to, you think like, oh, I've graduated. I'm like, they're done with me, but it's like, no, you can still keep those relationships going.
I will say, I live in Providence now, and I did my undergrad at Brown, which is like a mile down the street that way. And I've reconnected since I moved to Boston. Actually, I've been connected to like my undergraduate dance family down here in Providence, and like I work with them now. Like we do stuff together with my college dance professors. Like it's
cool.
Awesome. So like it's never too late to reconnect with those people who have influenced you. So.
I love that. And our last, well,
Our
this is
last
actually the
one.
second to last question because I have a question I ask everyone. But if you could change your name, what would you change it to? Your first name, sorry. I'm going to change it to if you had to change your first name. Like an alias.
I had to change my first name. Oh, I don't even know. This is so
You're
stressful.
such a Stephen. That's really hard.
I am, aren't I? Like,
Yeah,
it's
like
weird.
it fits you really well.
I don't know. Like, I don't know. Am I a Chad? Am I like a basic white man?
Not Chad. You should
I
pick
don't
something
know.
like crazy.
Like what? Like moon boot? Like,
For some reason, I'm just thinking like Heath. That's not crazy. It's
Heath.
just what I'm eating.
yeah. Heath.
I could see you as a Heath.
Sure.
Heath is a very
Yeah.
like professor name. You would
Is
need
it?
glasses,
Sure.
I think.
I wear glasses, actually. I'm just wearing contacts right now.
You're so versatile.
See? Am I? I thought we went over that. The point is not to be versatile.
Yeah, no, don't be.
Find yourself.
Okay, the last question that I ask everyone is, what is the last question? My brain is so fried from this election. What brings out your most creative self?
You warned me about this too. Like, you told me to think about it, and here I am in this moment. Did I ruin the surprise? Am I not supposed to say
No,
that you warned
I
us
tell
in
everyone
advance?
that they know it ahead of time.
And it's in every episode, and I've seen your episodes before.
Oh my God, thank you.
Of course, I'm your biggest fan. I subscribe to you on Apple Podcasts, and I subscribe to you on YouTube. So, like,
Oh my
number one
gosh.
fan.
You're literally my one, my one fan.
I'm proud of you. Let's see, what brings out my most creative self? Honestly, it's the collaboration with other people. And so, like, just like kind of like ties up a lot of the conversations we had about like learning who to trust and learning people who appreciate you and see you for what you are and who you are and what you contribute. Yeah, like surrounding yourself with people who make space for you, right? And by default making space for those people, like that's what inspires me. I'm not a choreographer who can like walk into a dance studio and like tell people what to do. Like, I mean, I do because I like directing, but like I don't like teach them dance steps and then tell them to go and then like sit in the front and judge them. Like I want to collaborate with people and work with them to find movement. And that's how I teach in the classroom too. Like I teach in a Socratic seminar style where like I'm not there to deliver material, I'm there to facilitate conversation. And like I'm less interested in just like hearing the sound of my own voice. I end up talking a lot, but like shocking. But
You have great things
I
to
like-
say though.
I like really earnestly like hearing from other people. And I think the older I get, the more I realize that like I need that interaction to like figure out what's like new in the world, right? Like, I don't know, like I was always a tech savvy kid, but that's just because like we grew up at a time when like the world was changing. And so we were used to like adapting to new things, but like I can't do TikTok. I can't figure it out. I'm sorry. I'm too stupid.
Me too. I feel really stressed out whenever I open that app. It's
Like
like
I open it and
screaming
I'm like,
at
I
me.
don't want that.
I'm like, why are you yelling at me?
So aggressive.
Whoa. Hey.
Yeah.
It's
exactly.
it's really rough.
So in any case, like youth culture is fun to learn about. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that is it.
Yeah.
We're gonna make a TikTok after this.
Are we?
This is actually a TikTok show.
Oh my God, live TikTok.
Yeah.
Are we sponsored? Are we influencers?
Yeah, we are TikTok influencers. We're TikTok famous. In case anyone
We're
knew. We have
sponsored by
4
Village Candle. The
And-
off-brand Yankee Candle brand.
and Domino's
Sugar. Oh,
Sugar.
fancy.
We're big time.
Sorry, anywho. What were we gonna say?
I don't remember, but honestly, this has been so amazing. This is exactly what at least I needed after the stress of yesterday and the stress that continues. I hope that this brings some joy to people's lives, and there was a ton of really great information in here. If you have anything you would like to plug, I have your Instagram down below. For some reason it has 2 ats. That's not real. But you can say it out loud for the audio listeners, and tell people where they can find you.
So you can find me at Step in the Left. on all socials, although they're all protected. But if you follow me, I usually approve everything. That's just because
Unless you're a weirdo.
No, it's just because I teach college students. So
right.
I gotta keep some boundaries. Whatever, they don't actually care about my life. But yeah, you can find me on Instagram, Twitter. I don't know what else. My personal website, stephen.ursprung.com, which is 3 years out of date. And you should make these cookies because they're really delicious.
Season 5 of Reject Dance Theater, is it gonna happen?
Yes.
Is this the official announcement?
Sure, we can run with that. Yeah. So
oh my gosh, we got an exclusive.
Exclusive inside look at something that hasn't started yet.
I love all of the people involved in this, so I'm very excited for it to happen.
Some cool people doing cool stuff. We're around. I just got super blurry. I don't know if I'm blurry on your end too.
You look great to me.
I look great. Okay. Yeah, make these cookies. Rick Martinez is an amazing chef. And eat cookies, be you.
That's it. That's the quote. Eat cookies and be you. Awesome. Well, for me, you can find me at Essentially Haley for DIY fun stuff on YouTube and Instagram, and then Haley Grove, Haley, for my personal Instagram and dance stuff. And definitely subscribe to the YouTube channel. I'm trying to get to 1,000 subscribers before 2021, which would be a massive feat because we are at probably 136. And 2020 is almost over. Almost over. I mean, if Trump can get so many votes, why can't I get 1,000 subscribers? But that is a different topic. So, yes, subscribe to the podcast, Dancers Doing Stuff, on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, whatever else is out there. Apparently, there are a ton of places you can listen to podcasts, and I think I'm on all of them. But I just listen to Apple. So, that's that. And, yeah, what else? I mean, I think that is it. I'm considering making an exclusive Dancers Doing Stuff Instagram, just mostly for my mental sake of separating parts of my brain. So look out for that because I might do that. But yeah, other than that, if you make these cookies, tag us, let us know. Everyone eat cookies, be happy, take care of yourself, and we're gonna get through this life together by making art and being cool. The end. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Bye.